What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Paddock, and today we're going to talk about how to develop your rhythms while improvising. If you're new to my channel or you've been here a couple times, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, hit the bell for notifications, and leave me a comment if you have questions or you have any suggestions for future videos. A question I am asked all the time from early improvisers is, how do I develop my rhythms when I'm improvising? When I improvise, I end up playing the same rhythm over and over, so improv solos sound like this. You can hear I'm playing the same rhythm over and over. So today I'm going to teach you how to solve that problem. When it comes to improvising, there are a ton of things that you have to think about. You have to think about the scale you're playing, the chord tones in that scale. You have to think about the feel of the song. You have to think about the rhythms you're going to play. There's just so much going on that oftentimes one or two of these things are going to get lost in the sauce. And a lot of the times that is going to be the rhythms that you're going to play. So today we are going to break this down just talking about rhythmic development. Let's talk about how to fix this problem, and the solution is actually pretty easy. So what we're going to do is get rid of all of the other stuff except for the rhythm. We're going to mainly concentrate on the rhythm so that we can figure out how to come up with different and creative rhythms. So the first thing we want to do is play all eighth notes for two measures. Now we're choosing two measures because in music, two measures is a musical sentence, so we want to think in two measures. So we just want to think eighth notes for two measures. So it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm going to play it on a G on my alto sax, and it'll sound like this. Kind of boring, right? So how are we going to change these eighth notes into creative rhythms? It's actually pretty easy once you fill up all of the space with eighth notes, because eighth notes are your main ingredient when you're improvising in a jazz style. Once you fill everything up with eighth notes, then all you have to do is think about taking some away. So instead of playing, you want to think about resting for some of those eighth notes. That is a lot more creative, right? I didn't really think about what notes I was going to rest on. I just chose to rest for some of the eighth notes. It doesn't really matter which eighth notes you rest on, just rest on some of them. As you can hear, the rhythms are already getting a whole lot more interesting. So when it comes to thinking about developing your rhythm when you're improvising, you want to think about space, which in music means rest. So add in some rest. So here are a couple examples. I'm just going to keep playing on this G. I'm going to play it a couple times in a row, and you're going to hear how different it sounds every time when I put rests in different spots. Now I'm just doing this on a G, so it doesn't sound super interesting, but if I do this exact same technique on my G mixed Lydian scale, which is from G to G with an F natural, then you're going to hear how much more interesting this improvisation is going to be just by adding in some rest to my eighth notes. This time I'm going to do 4-measure phrases. So I'm going to do two bar phrases. It really comes to life when we throw that scale in there. So your first step is thinking about eighth notes, but adding in some rest. So a great way to practice it is put on your metronome, just play in 2-bar phrases and randomly rest wherever you want, just to try and make your rhythm sound different. Now you're not trying to come up with the coolest improv ideas ever. All you're trying to do is change the rhythm of your phrase every time you play it, so you can open up your ears to hearing different rhythms. Once you're comfortable with that, the next step is adding in some long notes. So adding in some quarter notes or some dotted quarter notes, just some longer notes. So that gives you a lot more tension and release when we put in those long notes. That creates a lot more drama in what you're playing. Again, I just did that on a G, so it wasn't super exciting, but this is what it would sound like using a G mixolydian scale. That sounds a whole lot more interesting, and the rhythms are completely different every time. So I'm using space with my rests and tension and release with my long notes and my off beats. So off beats are also pretty important when you're playing your long notes. You want to put some of them on the and so that you're creating some tension. If you're trying to add some structure into your improvisation practice, I'd like to invite you to check out the Paddock Sax School. In the Sax School, I will take you step by step from playing one note solos all the way through following chord changes, knowing the chord tones, learning the scales that go along with it, and coming up with cool and creative solos. The next step from there is add in a different rhythm. So we are going to add in some triplets. So we're going to have some. So we're going to throw some triplets in there to spice things up. Now you've got some more complex rhythms going on. I'm going to do some 4-bar phrases. So you can hear all kinds of stuff going on there. When I think about my rests, I think about my long notes, my offbeats, and my triplets. Now I'm going to use the G mixolydian scale. Now I've got some really complex rhythms going on, but I'm only using these simple rules, and I can change it up and make everything sound really different just by resting in different places, playing my long notes in different places, and putting my triplets in different places. Now, the thing about triplets is they are very distinctive. So if you put a lot of triplets in, it's going to sound like you're playing the same rhythm over and over. Sounds cool, but it's a little too triplety for me. So you want to use your triplets sparingly because they sound so different because you have 3 to a beat instead of 2 to a beat like an 8th note. And the last step is throwing in some 16th notes. Adding in 16th notes can give you a whole lot of forward motion. Check it out when I play it in my G mixolydian scale. Now, as you can hear, when I put a lot of 16th notes in there, or 16th notes in general, the phrase can start to feel rushed. So you want to be a little sparing with your 16th notes because they are pretty quick and you don't want to overuse them. So start off by filling up the measure with 8th notes, then take a few 8th notes away so that you have space, then add in some longer notes and some offbeats so you have some contrast, then throw in some triplets so that you can add some more drama to what you're playing, and then of course throw in a few 16th notes so that you have a lot of forward motion. When you follow these simple steps for rhythmic development, it gives you an unlimited amount of options that you can use when it comes to trying to be creative with the rhythms that you use in your improv solos. I would suggest practicing this by putting a metronome on at a comfortable tempo and just repeating 2-bar phrases, trying to come up with different rhythms each time. And of course, you can use your rests and your triplets and your long notes and a few 16th notes to help you develop the different rhythms. And the more you work on this, the easier it's going to be for you to have an unlimited supply of rhythms that you can add into your improvisation. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. If you'd like to dive deeper into learning how to play the saxophone and improvise better, I'd like to invite you to check out the Paddock Sax School.